So I wanted to speak about honesty. It's related to um, a video that I published earlier, and also to another video that I haven't published because it came out too quiet, I thought. And I'm really sorry about the low volume. I'm doing everything I can to improve it. And the matter of honesty had led me ultimately to speak of the travellers, because of all the people that I've dealt with, I have found most people that I've dealt with to be honest, and I'm critical of an attitude that assumes that people in certain professions are going to be dishonest. People like used car salesmen, for example. I've been very blessed really to deal with honest men, I would say, in the very strong main in my life. And I think men are very often unfairly criticized for presumed dishonesty. It's a very great prejudice, really, to assume that anybody plying a trade is somehow um, dishonest. I don't think it's right to have that approach. So I suppose an exception to my meeting of honest men was when three or four young lads came round to the back of my house to tell me that to help me fix my roof. Well, not really, because they just turned up and they had a ladder, and my gutter was blocked at the back of the house. And I said, how much to fix it? And they said, 40 quid, we'll just nip up and we'll do it in no time. And it was a lot of money even for that, but I was perfectly happy to pay £40 to have it cleared. It had been causing a problem, and I haven't got a long ladder. And the next thing that I knew, of course, the one gentleman that it was just the one fella that I met, and then a whole load of them bundled out of the van and were round the back of my house and up on the roof before you could say Jack Robinson, and actually damaging it, exposing parts of it. And then the main fella come down the ladder and he told me that it was going to be a matter, and he got his calculator out, and he said it would be £3,200 that would need to be spent on the roof, and they could do the job if I wanted it. He would advise it. You see, they were being dishonest then. They were being dishonest from the moment they all piled out of the car and then moved tiles on my roof that I hadn't asked to be moved. And I'd agreed to pay £40. When they told me that quotation, I thanked them, and I thanked the fellow, and I said, well, it's a lot of money for me, and I'll have to get a few quotations to see how much it would cost. You know, I accepted his claim that the roof was damaged and needed work on it. And the minute I said that, and he just confirmed that I didn't want it doing, I said, well, not now. I wouldn't agree to it. And he was gone almost before I asked if he could leave me his card, and they just cleared off very quickly, and possibly took my watering can with them because I haven't been able to find them since. But I stopped the last one to go, and I gave him £40. And he said, well, you want to pay anyway, thus exposing the scam that it was. But I insisted because I'd agreed to do it. And so I was thinking about their people and the way that they're viewed in the land, because these are what we used to call gypsies. It's one of those names that you're hardly allowed to use now. I don't think you can say gypsies. I might even get taken down for saying it here. I don't mean any harm by saying gypsies. They're travelling people. You can call them Romany people. They see themselves as a race apart. I met quite a few in Italy. I met a group in Italy and spent some time with them. And I spent some time with their families. And I went to the seaside with some of their children. And Bisera came. And she was a very beautiful 30-year-old who had gone a bit wrong. I think she'd dallied with a member of my own race, and she'd been ostracized by her own people. She was a headstrong woman. And she got involved with my wife because my wife was involved with the women's shelter, this sort of business. And she had, very unusually for her people, approached the women's shelter because of her husband. Because, of course, it turned out that she was having this dalliance with a member of my own race while she was, according to her husband, a married woman. Such is the way of the world. And we went off to the seasides together, I remember. My wife and I, this young woman, and 3 or 4 children. And it was quite an adventure. And I always remember when, I think she just stayed the one day, when Bisera came to the beach. It was very moving to see how she just walked down to the shoreline and raised the hem of her long dress to bathe her ankles. She was always dressed modestly. And of course the beach, there was just people sprawled all over, and the women semi-naked. She didn't make any comment about it, of course. I suppose she would have known what the custom was, but they didn't used to go to the seaside very much, so perhaps not. Because later, when little Davide saw it, and he would have been probably 10 or 11, he was concerned about it, and he spoke to me about it, and he asked me what I thought of it. I don't think he was asking the philosophical question. I think he wanted to know whether I too found it sort of exciting to see that. He'd never been exposed to such nudity, I suppose, leading quite a sheltered existence. But they lived, for quite a long time, they lived at the back of the big supermarket in some derelict land in very, very poor and humble place. And they were the bane of everybody at the supermarket, because they would go and hassle them, and then they'd go into the shops, and the children would go, and things would go missing because they were thieves. And then they'd try and draw in elderly people in the car park and tell them their fortunes, and end up, taking their money from them because they were skilled also. And so they were hated. and they had no regard for the people either, the people outside of their own group, the normies, I suppose you'd call us. It's not really a racial thing, it's a level of understanding that was truly lacking, and they saw clearly the ignorance and the pride of the people, and they preyed upon them. You know, when you become wealthy and you have riches in your home, then the thief may break in and steal. Maybe you've got too much stuff. It's always possible. I mean, thieves will steal from somebody with nothing also, but these people were astute. They knew what they were doing. I gained a sort of grudging respect for them, I suppose, and I retain it. Even these chances that came and tried to do me with my roof. Somebody will fall for it, of course, otherwise they wouldn't go on. But it's not right that it should be so. And really, we need to build bridges between these different communities because they're still our neighbours and we are instructed to love them. And so all this prejudice needs to come to an end, I think, because, you know, they have that um, stigma that even their very name that used to be given to them is now become um, unmentionable. And in the olden days, they were tinkers and they plied a trade. And they probably plied that trade honestly. But you see, it's always easier to blame a traveller for the wickedness in the camp than to lay the blame where it truly lies. Because a traveller is here today and gone tomorrow, and so you might get away with it. I wonder whether that used to happen from time to time. And they became the unmentionables. God bless.